Did you know death is like a really bad cold? There's no known cure. That's bad news for the girl with the long, long legs. Or the guy who tried to recycle himself. And the escaped prisoner who wound up beached and leached. Then there's the guy with the snake up his butt. And the fish story that'll leave you gagging. Take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. It's the next episode of 1,000 Ways to Die.
Warning. The deaths portrayed in this show are real and extremely graphic. Names have been changed to protect the identities of the deceased. Do not attempt to try any of the actions depicted. You will die.
Death is everywhere. Most of us try to avoid it. Others can't get out of its way. Every day, we fight a new war against germs, toxins, injury, illness, and catastrophe. There's a lot of ways to wind up dead. The fact that we survive it all is a miracle. Because every day we live, we face 1,000 ways to die. Tracy was getting ready for another honest night's work. As a Las Vegas showgirl, her long, shapely legs were her meal ticket. Working all night and sleeping most of the day didn't leave much time for mundane tasks like shopping. When Tracy cut herself with an old rusty razor blade, her death clock started ticking. The blade that cut her skin had a nasty bacteria on it called Group A strep.
It's the same kind of bacteria, streptococcus, that causes a strep throat. But there are certain strains that have a particular toxin that makes them more prone to causing these necrotizing infections.
A necrotizing infection is just a fancy way to say flesh-eating disease. And a few days later, Tracy got a rude awakening.
Oh my God! Oh, my face! Holy crap!
This particular bacteria can progress very quickly. It can happen over a matter of hours. You can go from being perfectly healthy to having a limb-threatening or even life-threatening infection.
The bacteria traveled through her body and wound up breaking through a pimple and eating its way across her face. By the time Tracy wound up in the hospital, it was too late. The infection had spread throughout her body, causing septic shock. In a city that never sleeps, Tracy, the leggy showgirl, went lights out. Jake believed that any day now, humanity would be wiped out in some cataclysmic event. He was determined to survive, come hell or high water. Living off the grid, alone and isolated, Jake spent every waking hour in a state of paranoia. He patrolled his land for any intruder who might threaten his space. It was a job that required constant vigilance. While draining the snake in his hand, Jake failed to see the one in the bush. Like a devil in disguise, a 6-foot speckled king snake went straight for Jake's rifle.
Snakes will often find someplace warm to help heat their body up. And that way they can digest their food. Snakes don't make their own heat inside, so they need to get outside heat.
The snake wrapped itself around the butt of Jake's gun and threw the trigger loop as Jake made sure not to let the last drops go down his pants. Those few extra shakes would prove fateful. Maybe the snake got spooked by Jake and tensed up around the trigger. Maybe the snake was sent to deliver a message. But what's clear is, the snake managed to pull the trigger right when the gun was pointed at Jake's heart.
The snake definitely liked to kind of wiggle into tight places, and it may have just been wrapped around the trigger of the gun.
The bullet blasted a 4-inch hole into Jake's breastbone, piercing his heart. Death was instantaneous. In the end, Jake successfully avoided the apocalypse by permanently isolating himself from humanity. But he never learned that if the barbarians at the gate don't get you, the snake in the grass will. Next up, escaped female prisoner learns the hard way, leeches suck. Then, a mentally challenged thief takes himself out with the trash. Carmen is a very bad girl. A notorious crystal meth dealer and convicted murderer, she was sent to a Texas prison with no chance of parole. She decided to take her own chances and bust it out. If she could make it across the border into Mexico, she'd be home free. But that was a long shot, and the prison guards chasing her were very good shots. With no place left to run, she hit the ice-cold water. But without knowing it, Carmen had jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire, straight into the clutches of a hidden enemy.
Leeches. If you're, like for this prisoner who's running through the swamp, and it's the perfect place, they're ambushes, they can smell and feel the body heat, and it's lunch. And they'll swim very fast and attach themselves almost immediately. I mean, within 3 seconds, they're drawing blood.
The lake was a chilly 55 degrees. A half an hour would send Carmen into a state of hypothermia. A minute turned to 10 while the sharpshooters carefully scanned the area. Carmen's breathing became quick and shallow. Her blood vessels constricted and her limbs became numb. It was the perfect cover for the leeches, who are made to suck blood undetected.
They have an anticoagulant in the saliva and also a painkiller, so you don't feel them attaching and you don't feel the blood flowing. So even when the leech is full of, say, 10 to 50 to 20 cc's of blood, it falls off. You're still going to leak another 5 to 10 cc's of blood, and they'll literally drain you out of blood.
After 45 minutes, Carmen was finally able to crawl out of the water. Soon she'd be safe in Mexico, mixing up new batches of Devil's Brew, methamphetamine. But Carmen's karma is about to bite back. She's so drained of blood from the leeches feeding on her body, she's too weak to move.
If she doesn't die from lack of blood or loss of blood, she would die of exposure. Too weak, couldn't even call for help eventually. She'd just die of exposure and she'd become basically a blowfly picnic, wouldn't she?
Griff's an urban hunter-gatherer, the kind who mostly gathers other people's stuff. Knowing the security guard is on his 4th coffee break, it was time for Griff to strike. But even a rent-a-cop can sometimes stumble onto a perp.
Hey! Hey! Are you kidding me, man? Come here! Hey! Come here!
Sometimes a desperate dumpster dive is the only way out. Hidden underneath yesterday's lunch, Griff has once again eluded the man, but not the machine. While he was getting cozy with the cockroaches, fate turned his world upside down. falling on his head has left Griff groggy and disoriented. A second load pins him down.
Compactors create about 64,000 pounds or 32 tons of pressure to crunch and collapse debris.
The first thing that happens is that you can't breathe because the external forces disallow expansion of the chest.
Once in the clutches of the compactor, Griff's bones will start snapping one by one. Eventually, his vital organs will burst from the severe pressure.
Ostensibly, there's disintegration of every known structure in the human body.
If he's lucky, he'll have lost consciousness by then.
By the time they finally discovered what was left of his body, it probably would just be mopped up with a sponge.
There you go. A new way to reform a criminal.
Come to Mama.
Coming up, a fishtail that's hard to swallow. And
What are you doing?
an ex-con sticks it where the sun don't shine and doesn't live to regret it.
What's the matter with you?
Ah, the great outdoors. Where else can you enjoy a hot chick and a pole without blowing your paycheck? Kathy is every outdoorsman's dream. A super sexy pint-sized Daisy Duke who digs fishing. Any guy would love to pull this spinner out of their tackle box.
Come to Mama.
The problem was, Kathy was no angler. She couldn't even catch a cold. In all her days spent fishing, she had yet to catch a fish. So far, today was like all others, cast after cast. The only thing she reeled in was frustration.
What is this?
Kathy's bad day took a turn for the better. It started with a nibble. The nibble turned into a bite.
Come on. Oh, come on. Oh, come on.
And finally, she had her first fish on the line.
You're not getting away. Come to Mama.
She gave one last terrific pull, and her fish was on the hook and in the air. What happened next makes this fishtail one for the books. Kathy's fish came soaring out of the sky into her wide-open mouth and lodged itself deep down her throat. The outside of a fish is composed of thousands of scales, which are like individual plates. On the outside of the plates are bony spines, which will dig into anything that grabs hold. The more she pulled, the more its scales dug into the walls of her throat, choking her to death. In the end, Kathy was the one that got away.
Damn, baby. Like the best thing I've seen in 3 years.
I bet.
Out on parole with $200 to his name, Levinson was ready to live it up on his first night of freedom. So, like any sensible man who knows where true happiness lies, he bought himself a bottle of Jack, rented himself a fancy SUV, and got himself a hooker.
All I got is 50.
Think of this as a charity.
Lucky Levinson was about to receive a blue ball special.
You're an angel.
I've been waiting 3 long years for this.
Lost in the romance of the moment, Levinson didn't notice a cop car pulling up until he had already pulled his pants down.
Oh, crap. Take this.
What is that?
It's pepper spray. Take it.
No!
It's a parole violation. I go back for 2 years for this.
What are you doing?
Levinson had a can of pepper spray in plain view on the console of his car. And in the panic to hide it, the ex-con followed his instincts and shoved the contraband into the first place he could think of, up his keister.
What's going on here?
Nothing, officer, just me and my wife talking.
Your wife?
Yes, my wife.
That's your wife. I'm the Emperor of China.
Nice to meet you, Emperor.
Get out of the car.
Got nothing better to do?
Get out of the car.
They say that when you get pulled over, your first impression dictates your odds of avoiding trouble.
You're under the influence.
Exiting a vehicle with your pants around your ankles and a half pint of booze on your breath, not a good start.
You under the influence?
A little bit.
A little bit?
A little bit!
Hey!
Ah! Ah! Ah!
What's the matter?
When the cop shoved Levinson against the truck, it set off a raging can of pepper spray inside his bunghole.
What's going on?
When someone has pepper spray sprayed in their face, it typically is in an open environment. When pepper spray will go off in, say, a closed colon, there's nowhere for that pepper to diffuse, so it's just constantly going to be irritating that lining, causing more and more damage to the mucosal lining, probably causing more severe damage than, say, if you sprayed it in someone's eyes or nose.
What the hell is wrong with this guy?
You'll figure it out. I am so out of here.
What's going on? What the hell is going on?
Crime doesn't pay, but the criminal does. For Levinson, first he put up, then he paid up. Up next, we all know that war sucks, but what happened to one unlucky Navy man? That really sucked. Throughout history, if you really wanted to tempt death, you went to war. In 1991, J.D. Bridges was part of Operation Desert Storm in the Persian Gulf.
I went into the Navy 2 weeks after I graduated high school in June of '88. They told me that I was going to be on the catapults and arresting gear on the flight deck of a carrier.
Stationed on the USS Roosevelt, J.D. became a member of the crew responsible for landing and launching all the aircraft on the massive flight deck.
We launched A6 intruders, F-14s, F-18s, S-3s, E-2s. We didn't have a day and a night crew. There was one crew. We didn't get but about 2 hours sleep a day.
To dominate the airspace over Iraq, the Roosevelt was running missions 24/7.
And we was launching alert aircraft just to always have planes in the air. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. Everybody on the flight deck was tired and fatigued because we only had one shift.
Preparing an A6 intruder for takeoff, J.D. stepped too close to one of its engines. The air intake sucked him in like a rag doll.
It was basically an moment. I'm in big danger, but there's nothing you can do about it, as you can see.
But J.D. was still inside the running jet engine. It ripped his helmet off and shot it through the combustion chamber.
The force of the air rushing through the intake pulled the air out of my lungs, so I couldn't breathe. They shut down the plane, and my air came back to me. I started breathing. I knew I had to get out of there, so I crawled out and took about 2 steps, and I blacked out and woke up in medical.
J.D. escaped death with amazingly moderate injuries.
I had a broken collarbone. I had to get 10 stitches above my eye. I've got a couple little pieces of steel that got lodged into my body, but it's nothing major.
Fate, luck, or miracle, J.D. Bridges is one serviceman who can count some major blessings.
I guess it can be considered a miracle for the simple fact I should have died and didn't. So therefore, I think everybody has a purpose in life, and it just wasn't my time to go. I've got a purpose, and somewhere down the road I'll find it.
It's original.